Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Annie News, and today we are checking out what fantasy and isekai anime we got coming out in spring. It's always nice to get the heads up ahead of time, and then after the fact we watched the Gigok and Mother's Basements ones. What was it I watched yesterday? It was I learned a cheat in another world, and then it helped me. He was like fat, and then he found a place in his granddad's where he leveled up. So I quite enjoyed the first episode of that. But yeah, let's see what else is out there for us this season to check out.
You know, one day we'll eventually run out of ideas for isekai.
Yeah.
That day may not be today or tomorrow.
Konosuba!
But these isekai
Oh,
are
do you know
being made,
what? I'm so excited to see this Konosuba series as well. Like, it's time of me recording this, it's going up today, and I keep checking Crunchyroll because on the calendar it doesn't say what time it's coming out.
definitely bound to happen. So, with another season of anime right around the corner, that's a whole
Let's
new selection
go!
of isekai to go over. Mostly the standard power fantasy we've come accustomed to, but also a couple new ones that kind of break away from it. So, as we go through every isekai or fantasy anime that's coming out this spring, perhaps one or two of them may look a little bit interesting to you.
Mashal as well. Oh.
Starting things off with the sequels, first we have Konosuba. Not a direct sequel
It's
to
a
the main
prequel,
series
isn't it?
involving Kazuma, but instead a prequel showing the origins of Megumin. Taking place a year before Aqua and Kazuma even arrive, we get to see how it is Megumin became the master of her ultimate offensive.
Sweet! I am so
Specifically
excited.
the life-changing event that made her love it so much in the first place, then her relentless pursuit after to put every possible skill point into it. Now, the first trailer does make it seem a bit more serious than what we're used to, but from what I've read so far, it does seem to have that same comedy that you've come to love from the main series.
Sweet.
There definitely are several sad moments regarding Megumin's upbringing, but that doesn't mean there aren't those ridiculous over-the-top comedic moments either.
So
if you're looking for a good complementary series to Konosuba, then this is definitely one of the anime that you don't want to miss out on this season.
Oh, I can't wait.
The next isekai that's returning this season is Kuma Bear and Yuna's OP
Bear Punch, that's the one. Yeah.
This wasn't anything exceptional when it first came out, but if you found yourself enjoying Yuna's adventures in the in-game world of her VR MMO, then that's pretty much what you'll get in this season. An overpowered girl in a bear costume interacting with now sentient NPCs.
Cute. Alright.
An isekai I never thought we'd ever see again is the returning sequel for In Another World with My Smartphone. One of the first parodies of the genre that I honestly believed pioneered the path for all the not-so-great isekai to come after it.
Right.
Almost like someone in Japan mistook it as a reason to greenlight literally every other isekai in existence.
It's not great, though.
Either way, if you're a fan of this ungodly mix of every isekai protagonist, as well as the way he likes to subvert the usual tropes of isekai, then there'll be more of him in Season 2. It may even look better than the first season since JC Staff is doing it. Now,
Okay, different
the other
studio.
two fantasy returning this season
Oh.
is King's Ranking with a series of special OVA-type episodes
Hey,
and
it's
the
the
long-awaited
third season.
continuation to the Ancient Magus' Bride. King's Ranking is more anime original content adding context to the first season, while Ancient Magus' Bride brings us back into one of the best depictions of fantasy in anime.
I need to watch Ancient Magus Bride. I've not seen season 1. I read a bit of the first volume of the manga. Seemed decent. Might be something I might catch up on.
It's definitely a slower take on the genre, but the way it weaves the more obscure elements of fantasy into its story really does make for quite the interesting series. It's a show I recommend to anyone who's a more well-versed fantasy fanatic.
Okay.
Moving on to the new series now. First we have I Got a Cheat Skill in Another World and Became Unrivaled in the Real World.
The first episode was decent.
An adaptation of a light novel that doesn't really do much to differentiate itself from other isekai. We have a protagonist who's been relentlessly bullied, one day finds a door that leads to a new world, then uses the stuff he finds in it to become OP, turn sexy, and create a harem.
Yeah, that was the thing that got me, right? I kind of wish he stayed fat and then just carried on. That would have been cool, but it's just like, I don't know.
Where this series does take a turn, though, is the way it lets its MC return to the real world whenever he wants. He basically
gains
has two
money.
lives in which half the story is spent in the real world, and
Yeah, like every time he experiences stuff and he comes back, it gives him cash to spend. It's like, wow, it's so
the
sick.
other half is spent in the fantasy one. I'm not quite sure what happens beyond that, but I assume it's fighting monsters in the new world and getting back at his bullies in the old one. Probably adding waifus to his harem in both.
Hell yeah.
Another isekai whose source material unfortunately doesn't have great reviews is Studio L's adaptation of Summoned to Another World for a second time.
This is on
A
Crunchyroll
series
as well,
where the
yeah.
MC has already been isekai'd before, then after saving that world he was sent back to the real world, returning as a baby who had to start their life all over again. Fast forward to when he's back in high school, and once again this ex-hero would be resummoned to that same fantasy
Oh,
world
and he
had
wants to go
returned
for it. Nice.
not only keeping all the same powers he had before, but
Cool.
also getting joined by the students he was just in class with. So, aside from our character already having experience in this new world of fantasy,
Whoa,
there really
ass
isn't
slap.
much else to make this
10,000.
isekai unique. Now, as much as I'd like to say that these next isekai have potential, unfortunately they too fail to catch my attention as anything other than generic. There's the Reincarnation Harem Chronicles of an Aristocrat Reborn in Another World, then
I
the
think
comedic
that's on
fantasy My One-Hit
Crunchyroll.
Kill Sister. The first is a teen who dies then reincarnates as the third son of an aristocrat trying to climb the ranks of society. He keeps the same knowledge he had on Earth, all while becoming OP after gaining the protection of the gods.
Cool.
So it's pretty much him hiding his powers while doing the classic nobility stuff. As for My One-Hit Kill Sister, this is pretty much the sister version of that isekai where the mom is the overpowered one.
Oh.
Aside from that, there's honestly not much else to say for it. If you've seen that show, then I'm pretty certain you'd know what to expect from this one. The brother's the weak one and the sister is the one who's extremely overpowered.
Right.
She also has this massive complex for him. Now, if there was one
Very
isekai
bizarre.
I had to choose as the one that seemed the most interesting, then it would have to be the comedic ecchi Kamikatsu.
Kamikatsu.
Working for a god in a godless world. I'm not saying this is leagues above any of the others, but at the very least it has a premise that breaks away from the cookie-cutter style of the other four.
What the hell?
Our protagonist is a teen who was raised by these cult leader parents. After getting sacrificed as part of one of their rituals, he's reincarnated into a world where, well, let's just say everyone's a cultured degenerate.
Oh.
It's also a world where the country decides whether anyone lives or dies. So, after getting executed for interfering with one of their decisions, the god of the cult his family followed comes to revive him, resulting in the two doing some interesting shenanigans in the New World. Now, aside from this New World being a truly degen place unlike any setting that we've ever seen before, the reason I
Right.
say this show has potential is actually because of the absolutely stacked cast behind it.
Who've we got?
Regardless of whether it's a main character
All
or supporting
right.
one, pretty much all of them are voiced by a
Damn,
well-known
all
VA with
right.
a highly notable main character under the
Yo.
It's a deceptively stacked lineup that you wouldn't expect to come from an anime like this.
Alright, cool.
Now, the last isekai we have on our list is a villainous type setting in which our protagonist finds herself as a character in one of her romance novels. But unlike how she'd usually be isekai'd as the villainess or the main character, she's instead reincarnated as the side character whose murder instigates the entire story,
Oh,
leading her to try and avoid that fate and change the story.
cool.
Another series that shows to have a bit of potential is the new reverse isekai by Studio Geek Toys, an adaptation of the manga
Death Play.
Death Mount Death Play.
Right.
After being backed into a corner by the legendary hero, the corpse god Necromancer finds himself with no choice but to use his reincarnation magic on himself, resulting in him awakening as a regular boy in Japan. I'm not entirely sure what happens after, but from what I've read, it's pretty much like Devil as a Part-Timer minus the comedy.
Oh,
Combine that with a
minus the
story
comedy,
coming from
right,
the same
okay.
person behind Bakuno and Durarara, and at the very least you can expect well-developed
Huh.
characters with multiple intertwined
Bakuno is such a
storylines,
good show,
making
my
this
God.
a top candidate to be one of the more interesting anime this season. Now, moving on to just the straight up fantasy.
Mashal!
First and foremost, we have Mashal,
Alright.
a series with which if I had to describe in a single sentence, I would probably say One Punch Man but with magic.
Yeah.
In a world dominated mostly by magic, our protagonist Mash uses pure strength to make up for not having any.
Sounds a bit like Black Clover, but okay.
He's a dying breed of human that the rest of the world deems as useless. So, in order to get society to accept him, Mash enrolls into a magic academy to show his muscles can compete with even the best of magic, using only his fists to overcome whatever obstacles he may come across. It's not that he defeats his enemies with one punch all the time, but seeing him deflect magic with only his hands
That's
does make
cool.
for quite the comedic action scenes. It's one of those series that takes the single concept it revolves around, then applies it to these increasingly creative and funny situations.
I am looking forward to this, man.
So, if you're looking for a show that puts magic against muscles in the most hilarious way possible,
That's
then
the
Mashal
idea.
would definitely be worth checking out for you. The next fantasy on our list is Studio Liden Film's adaptation of the manga, The Hero is Dead. Another comedic take on the standard fantasy that places three unlikely companions together in this mission to fight against the Demon Lord. Well, initially that was the job of the hero, but after a perverted farmer accidentally killed him, it's now up to
Oh.
that farmer to shoulder that
Whoa.
responsibility now.
Okay.
Of course, he's not even
What an
remotely suited
accident.
to the task, but that's the aspect that makes this series so funny. There's also apparently quite a few plot twists that make the story a bit more interesting. Now, Last but not least is the adaptation of the fantasy romance manga, The Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. A
Okay.
Beauty and the Beast type story in which a girl is sent as sacrifice to the King of Beasts only to be taken in rather than eaten. Where the drama starts to unfold, though, is through a human trying to coexist with the people of the Beast Kingdom. You see, the king may have this budding romance with the princess, but everyone else isn't as open to peace as they are,
Right.
leading to a variety of conflicts that spur as their relationship grows. But yeah, that's
sounds
pretty
cool.
much
That sounds
every
very
isekai and
interesting.
fantasy coming out this season. I wouldn't say there's anything too spectacular, but maybe a couple could prove to be actually quite entertaining. I'd love to know which ones you plan on watching in the comments. Now, before I go, if you haven't had the chance to check out the Armory desk mats, then you can still get those
Does
now
look good,
using the
that
link
desk
in the
mat.
description.
Bam.
They're a high-quality mousepad that takes inspiration from a lot of my favorite anime. Something that's a bit more than just the standard t-shirt. But anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time.
Ciao. Cool. Yeah, some interesting sounding isekai and fantasy coming out there. Marshall, I'm really looking forward to. The Konosuba one. Hopefully, I work really early tomorrow, so I've got to get to bed dead early. So I'm hoping that it goes up before I get to bed. I'll be so fuming if it doesn't. I really want to see this Megabean series. Marshall, that's going to be great. And then, yeah, Dr. Stone wasn't put on there. That's technically an isekai. But anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link in the description of the Patreon page. $1 a month /support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys very much for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know what you watch, guys, in future videos. I'll see you guys all, guys. Knee down. Bye.